Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, I thought we would dive down a little storyline, have a little story time, if you will, and some news. What is happening in Kingdom 40 with TFS? Now, some of you might be wondering, damn, something's happening again? Well, in a sense, yeah. So it was rumored to me and was notified by a few people that Tiny in TFS, who was effectively Jason's the R5 there in TFS, his right hand man, very similar to how SoD was once upon a time, is no longer in leadership, potentially was kicked out, and maybe migrating out as well with some peeps. And if all of this is sounding incredibly familiar, well, it should, because this is not the first time that this has happened, if it is true. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us some, because it helps out a lot. So this initially was reported to me, and I took it upon myself to just ask, simply put. So I reached out to Tiny and reached out to Jason, and I initially asked, hey, look, this is what I've heard from a few people, right? Is there any truth to this? Are you no comment? And I ended up hearing from Tiny first, where he effectively said that him and Jason had a disagreement, argument, heated discussion, and in the moment, Jason had kicked him from leadership. Leadership or the management team took a vote. They didn't want, I guess this was kind of like a potential circle around to see if Tiny could get back in. Jason put a vote to the management team. Management team said, no, we don't want Tiny back in. And then Tiny just saying, look, I just don't want to be somewhere, where I had built up and contributed heavily to the Alliance as a member. So he said he's leaving, doesn't want any drama, doesn't want any BS. Just me and his friends will eventually be leaving and going somewhere else, but that he plans to contribute and participate in the Alliance up until the end of the season, which I think in any regard, especially when you're a member of management, and regardless if you are or not at any point in time, fulfilling that obligation, it's almost like having a job and saying, hey, I'm going to put my 2 weeks notice in, but then you have some people that just dip out the moment that they put that 2 weeks notice in. And other people, right, I would argue is one good approach and good way to go about it is to fulfill your job responsibilities, your promises, your contributions to the Alliance through that period. And that very much feels as though this is what's happening with, in Tiny's case. Now, I did reach out to Jason. Jason essentially just gave me a no comment, which is just, look, I just don't want to, talk about it. Didn't feel as though there was a need, as this had happened a little while ago, I think on February 7th, right? So it's about a week ago. And we'll show you some Discord conversations, what the post was made, what have some people kind of said about the situation as well, because I do find that it is somewhat interesting. Now, let's read through that. And then at the end, I want to kind of tie everything into like the SoD thing and what I think is something that is one potential branch that this could go down, even though, probably may not end up. And obviously we hope and wish TFS the best going forward, of course. So what I want to show you first is a post that was made here. And Tiny is still in the Alliance too as well. I think he's a R3, R2 or something like that. But if we end up going to this window here, right, Tiny had made this post on the official Discord on the Looking for Home Kingdom on the recruitment section of the official Discord. This was again made on February 7th, so about a week ago. And just kind of talking about, hey, I have a small group of people. These are some of the numbers, right? They're kind of very similar to what you would come to find and imagine from someone who plays Rock or other Kingdom builders. And you're just kind of posting some of your group stats. Now, there's not too many stats here posted, but this is the initial. And from what Tiny has mentioned is that they have received a lot of offers. A lot as in more than 20. I consider that a lot. I consider that a healthy amount. And so some of the comments here is, and this is funny because this was posted, Barracuda's like, yo, you're homeless now? Papa Noob, dude, the people here are so mean. Noob, that's crazy. So official end of TFS without Tiny. It's only FS now. TFS will be fine. Jason got this. Are you trying to get rid of your dead weight that you just recruited? TFS is recruiting. Wasn't Tiny the one who killed FS? Server 1 for the 8, still new. Come join. Just working them in, man. FS was the better division. Tiny Diplo, best Diplo EU. LMAO, I thought the same thing. FS didn't die. Jason absorbed. FS was great when it was around, and everyone that there enjoyed it. I want to introduce you to my server. There's a small number as you see some recruitments that are going down. Hex just says come back to server 23. That's kind of crazy, not gonna lie. I heard Sammy left y'all. Yeah, man. It's so okay. Now I want to show you guys some of the Discord stuff, right? So this is some of the posts that were made after. So we have. Oh, hang on. No, that's the small group. We just want Gen Chat. So Tinsy is in TFS. No, it's Tiny. It's Tiny's cousin. Or sorry, Tiny Tinsy's cousin. Let me see here. We got this one. I think I saw their name. Some of us don't know. Let me see. Tinsy Noir. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, that's just the... Oh, no. Here it is. Yeah. So Face, I think it's sad. Same reason. I put so much into TFS. My people wanted it. It's not my choice to make, right? I go where my people go. I'm leaving. I ain't got no news. And then, again, Blade had forwarded this. They aren't disbanding. I'm sure Jason will do fine without me. Single. You guys, man, so messed up, man. Because I care about deads. Let's see here. Why not? Now, some stuff happened which led to other stuff, to which I decided to leave. I'm in VC playing Monster Hunter Wilds. Let's see here what they got on this one. I think we were on... Yeah, so there's a few more mentions here. So we'll just go through these and see if there's anything else. So, Tiny, not sure. Tiny, there was tiny chokes everywhere. Trees and boulders. Oh, here we go. So Sharp said Tiny got kicked from TFS. What? Years. And this was on, I think, the 10th. This was a couple days afterwards. Tiny R5, no R4. Jason and Tiny are duo. Can't kick him. Young servers are friendly. Tiny, I was kicked from leadership. I chose to leave on my own due to this. I think he means leave on his own as far as out of the kingdom. Then we get, and then Sharp's like, ouch. An argument we had, that's all. I don't want to go into more. And again, more or less kind of what he said to me, right? Not necessarily looking for particulars, but just kind of more of a, hey, is there anything broadly that can be spoken to? And then obviously Tiny's saying kind of like, where are you going to go now? Unsure yet. And again, that's where I had actually mentioned, he's like, oh, EIS calls for you. I haven't actually been invited to EIS. Interesting. But again, this was 3 days ago, right? So maybe, at least for this post. So maybe that was the case. And I know Face had mentioned some things too as well. Obviously, Yukin had said something, which is Tiny leaving. Lol. I don't think there was anything else that was posted. Yeah, Tiny was Jason's right hand, right? So you can see it. And again, that was posted on the announcement board that we had showed you a little while ago too as well. Tiny talked about some days ago here. I guess before reading what said Tiny is Jason started replacing him with Stretch or someone else. Let me see here. We got Echo, SoD, just Tiny Dolphin. Let me see. We got Tiny Dolphin, Hippo. Oh, here we go. So this is something here, I think, that you said. So from what I gather, I was in zone 2. Jason yelled and blamed Tiny. Oh, this is interesting. I haven't heard any of this. Wow, look what you find sometimes. From what I gathered, it was in zone 2. Jason yelled and blamed Tiny and VC because of TFS build plan and their inactivity overall. Tiny... Go up, please. Tiny was not in the build team, according to him. Then Jason held a trial. See, look, there you are. Then Jason held the trial to determine if they'll keep him as R4, which ultimately ended with a decision that Tiny is removed from R4 position indefinitely. At that point, Tiny decided to leave because Jason can't really change, even though it's his third chance. Okay, so this is interesting because I haven't heard any of this. And I don't think anything, again, who knows if that's true or not, right? This is one person's mention. Let's see here, Tiny Hybrid, Musk worried. Okay, let's see if there's anything on the first page, which I think is some things that might have been said today. And then I'm going to kind of talk about what I think, is happening and how it's kind of related to the SoD topic that ended up happening historically within TFS during the first split. So, yes, if you finish eating, you can. Okay. So we have what's Tiny about Tiny. That's good. Let me see. Migrants. What's this one? We got, well, I'm curious to hear names of migrants which joined TFS for Tiny and not Jason. Tiny sounds like a reasonable person. What's he doing playing COD? Yeah, what are you doing playing COD, Tiny? Tiny leaves TFS. Let me see here. Delete Discord. I wasn't in TFS. I think Guns left that season 2. Tiny's gee. Let me see. Tiny got me in his DMs applications. Tiny, please. Wait, what? You go to game with? What is going on? Why doesn't Tiny? What is so Tiny? Why did you block RG6? Tiny leaving TF? Oh, this is Drago had said this today, 3:24 a.m. Yes, this is like old news. Obviously, yeah, it's been a couple days at this point. It's okay. We still love you. Don't gotta out me like that. I hope we match too, bro. I'm Echo. It's a little bit too much for me. But anyways, so that kind of, I guess, sums up, right, where we're at the moment after reading some interesting chat messages and posts there from the Discord. Now, where I'll kind of end with this is, and this is the thing I think is somewhat interesting, is that, you had this situation before, and again, people could say what they want, but I mean, at this point, a trend has been established, at least with 2 situations happening. And because they're so similar, I consider it to be a trend, and I consider it to be a form of consistency, regardless of how much it may be. So when again, the 2 instances I'm aware of is the first one was with SoD, right? Now, for those of you that may not have a history lesson with TFS, I'll give you a brief one. So when SoD was there, SoD was basically Tiny. He was the right hand to Jason. He did a lot for the team. And there was a altercation situation that had played out, and SoD essentially, and we did an interview with him too as well, so maybe I might include that in the end card if I remember. But if you just go on my channel and you type in SoD interview, SoD space interview, you'll find it. And that's where I talked to him, and he shared a little bit about his experience and some things broadly, right? Not too specifically on kind of what happened and what went down within TFS. Effectively, it was a major split, right? You had about half of the alliance in TFS that went with SoD, which is now rebranded to Echo, and they landed in Kingdom 60. This was when they left 23. And then after that, Ancients, or ANCS, who was also a top kingdom, right? They were a top 25 alliance, top 25 kingdom in the game. They ended up migrating into 23 to try and fill that void, that space of players and power that had left to 60 with SoD and rebranding to Echo. Eventually, TFS leaves 23 and heads to 40, which is where they're at now. This was kind of their leaning period. And then eventually Ancients left, and, there's still, 23 is still active, but it's just not what it used to be. And then you end up having Tiny that, again, had been there for a while. I think he mentioned maybe 1+ or later, and eventually worked his way up to being a part of management and the right hand, or the second right hand, if you will, of Jason, and which, again, SoD once was, and ends up just doing a lot for the Alliance, like I would hope and imagine any and every R4 and management member / contributing member as well, right, would consider doing, but, more so for management. And then you have another situation, the second situation or altercation that happens between first SoD and Jason, and now Tiny and Jason. And even though we don't necessarily know what those particulars are, because nothing has really been stated from either side, or at least from what we'd consider to be a more official or primary source, and or it hasn't been corroborated by multiple people within the Alliance, not as though I've reached out to people, you would then have this second situation that occurs, which is eerily similar, right? You could almost say it's a reskinned situation of what happened before. The only difference is, this time, there is not a huge amount of people that are potentially leaving or will eventually migrate with Tiny. Now, I do want to say I have heard reports from a few people now, some within and outside of TFS, that there initially was about 40 to 50 people that were interested in migrating out and joining Tiny. From what Tiny had told me is that he didn't want to be the cause for anything negative or being the reason people started advocating, or any kind of snowball effect, right, that could have started. And it was really just about, let me kind of go with my homies, home grills that either are friends or just, again, if it's kind of an inner circle or a tight-knit group thing, and didn't want to just, take a bunch of people, and that wasn't the whole thing, right? It wasn't about that. And obviously, you can even see publicly, it's not as though Tiny is bad mouthing Jason. He's still singing the praises of being in the alliance, of the time he was there, of again only speaking neutrally or positively about Jason. Again, I do think that is, a good way, one good way to go about your approach and your situation there. And Tiny, at least to me, from the I'd say amount of times I've spoken to him, he doesn't come off as someone, again, from what I've seen, that is, vindictive in that way, where it's like, oh yeah, let's just, all this stuff happened to me. I'm just going to try and recruit everyone from whatever alliance I'm in because I felt like I was done wrong, and I'm just going to take everyone, da da da. Like, that doesn't necessarily feel like the impression that I would get, again, based on my limited time and experience and conversations with him. And I think based on what he's saying so far, he's playing that out. Now, of course, I think like with anything, and this is something that is probably the maybe second or third part, is what we ended up seeing with Echo the first time around is that there was a group that left, and then there was other people that left afterwards. Some of those people went to Echo because they just weren't able to go immediately because they had to wait for cooldowns on migrations, and some people went elsewhere, just like other people joined TFS as well. And so do I think that there's the chance that that can happen again, where, once Tiny is settled wherever he is, just like when SoD settled wherever he settled? Do I think there could be some people that will be interested in migrating there? I'm sure. I think it's likely. Do I think some people may migrate elsewhere, and then you'll have other people that will come into TFS? Like they've been recruiting some people, I believe, from LTS and others as well. Yeah. Again, that's kind of the give and take, right? The ebb and flow, the incoming and the outgoing. So that's pretty much it for me, for what I got at the moment. Like I said, this to me is really just interesting in the storyline because, one, it is just something that has happened before. So it's not kind of a one and done or an isolated incident. Now, again, maybe it's just coincidence. Very much could be that too as well. I would like to lean more on the side of it being more coincidence if the two situations between Tiny and SoD were not so similar. And I think for me, if I'm objectively looking at the situation as an outsider and knowing what I know about the two individuals, I would lean a little bit more on it not being coincidence. But again, some people may chalk it up to that. And again, that's where you as the viewer can decide for yourself. I'm just happy to kind of share my take on it, present to you what's happening. Here's the news and my opinion. And as always, I hope you enjoy. Until next time, we will catch you later.